So welcome, Laura. Thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thanks for having me, Melly. I look forward to it.
Yeah, so this month we're talking about crystal healing over in the Dreaming Yogi community. And of course, I had to reach out to Laura Weigel, who is an amazing crystal healer and has a beautiful crystal shop, Will to Wow. But most importantly, your message and story behind your your business is so beautiful and empowering. And I wanted to, take some time to talk to you to really see how crystal healing came to your life for those who don't know you, your mission, what it's provided for you, and just anything you want to share with us today about crystal healing.
Okay, well, I think that crystals, they're a vibration. And so they really hold our intention and they help to amplify our intention, right? And so my intention with them are healing, and that runs really deep. It started for me back when I was trying to first get pregnant, and I was doing, I had a lot of trouble getting pregnant. So I saw a fertility doctor and I started doing IVF, in vitros, which to back up, I have endometriosis. So I was in a lot of pain anyway, always monthly. Like I kind of knew something was off in my system. So after, I believe it was like 4 failed IVFs, which are very expensive, we were getting pretty frustrated. And I met somebody in the recovery room for one of the retrievals where they take the egg out. And she was talking about how she had seen an acupuncturist. And I've always been into yoga and everything holistic since I was in my early 20s. I was like, acupuncture, wow, like I've never even thought about that. And I was really intrigued, with the needles and everything. And so I went to see her. Her name was Dr. Kimberly Sperling. And I go in and she was just nothing like what I would expect at all. Because I had gone into another acupuncturist beforehand, I should back up, and it was very sterile. It was like fluorescent lighting, and they wanted just to needle you and leave you in the room and leave. And it was just left me feeling like, what in the world is this going to do for me? So then I went to see Dr. Kimberly Sperling, who I was referred to. And she was not Asian at all, this cute little white girl. And I was like, what does she know about acupuncture? So she needled me and took me through an intuitive guided meditation, did essential oils, and then at the end brought out crystals. And so I like totally fell in love. It was just like this multi-sensory experience for me. And I started going not even really for the IVF. It was more like for this experience. She brought me to such a place of balance where I was like, I'm fine if I have children. I'm fine if I don't. It's totally up to divine, and I just really let it go. And Melly knows, being a Virgo, that says a lot, to just really get out of my Mercury brain and let it go. So I was totally intrigued. And then, of course, the IVF worked. And so I got pregnant, and Dr. Kim told me a lot about using the crystals to help me get pregnant. Peach moonstone in particular, rose quartz, clear quartz to amplify my intention, and meditating with them. And so I started to incorporate them in my life. And I just became totally intrigued with them. If they weren't around, I felt like something was missing. So that's really what really got me started to initially have any even awareness of crystals, was an acupuncturist.
Wow, that's an amazing story, and how everything just kind of came together to bring that ultimate experience and then be able to have kids like you wanted. But it's so interesting how, in being able to let go, right, those crystals allowed you to let go and be at comfort and at peace, and then how it happened right after that. So that's really beautiful.
I really think it was just putting the rose quartz on my chest and then meditating in the bath. And it just kept saying, what's meant to be will be. And I have to trust, because, and at that time I was a teacher as well. So I was like, I will always have my kids, whether they're my own kids or somebody else's kids, because I knew I would never do both, because I knew how much I loved my students and I knew how much I loved my own children. I knew I was my focus would always have to be one or the other,
Right.
you
So
know,
you
or
were,
I wouldn't be as good. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
your story just reminded me, especially the crystals that you mentioned right now. And I don't know, I've never told you this, and I don't even know if you remember, but a long time ago, I came to you and I asked you about crystals for fertility because a friend had come to me for that. And I mentioned the peach moonstone, the rose quartz, and the clear quartz. And she now has kids. Like after
Really?
trying, yeah, she does. And yeah, it just gives me chills because I mean, I'm
Me
not a mom.
too.
I'm not a mom and I didn't know any of that. And I knew your
Mhm.
story. And I mean, with anything crystal related, when I don't know about a crystal, I come to you. And so, yeah, now thinking back, I'm like, wow, she actually has twins now. And I don't know too much about
Which is
her,
what
her
I have.
journey. Yeah.
Totally amazing. And so then I had my children, and then my son had a brain injury at almost 11 months. It was the day after Christmas, 2008. You know, whenever there's a traumatic event, it's like everything from before 2008 and then everything after. And my initial thought when he was in the hospital was, oh my gosh, I need to call Dr. Kim again. And then it just so happened that she actually lived behind me, and we didn't even realize that, because beforehand I would always go to her office, and she literally lived in the neighborhood behind me. So it was very nice because she immediately started coming to the house once William left rehab, and she would come in to needle him. Well, she of course brought her crystals with her, and watching his reaction, because you know he had a brain injury, so he was completely paralyzed, cortically visually impaired, so he wasn't able to see anything, you know, around him. And as soon as clear quartz would come near him, he would just like, whoa, and start ball. Like the energy was just way too much. It was way too intense. And I had kind of forgotten about the whole IVF thing at that time, you know, that I'd gone through. I'd had my kids and dealing with twins, and that was intense in itself. And then Will's accident, and seeing his reaction, I was like, wow, you know, crystals are so much more than what I've really realized. And I just watched it in awe. And then when Kim left the house, I wish I had it next to me. A book literally fell off my bookshelf in my room, and it was about crystals. And I didn't even realize I had the book. So I was just totally fascinated, started reading the book, felt like I needed everything, had this huge collection. And that's when I realized that we need to get out of our heads and not read the books. Really, you know, like initially when I first did the crystals, when I was just meditating and connecting with them. And then when Will had his accident, I couldn't meditate at all at that point. I remember Kim would always say, you have the tools, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I can't even shut my eyes, like to utilize my tools. I think that's where um, soul guides or people like you, Melly, or me, you know, now that we work with our clients, it's to help them when we're so stuck in our heads that we can't even navigate, you know, right from left.
Right.
So
It's
then,
like the reminder of the tools we have, because especially in that traumatic incident, you know, that you were going through, it's like, how do you shut down? We need that reminder to have the
right,
tools. So that's, yeah.
for sure. And just somebody to walk with us through using them, you know, instead of saying go meditate, like sit down and meditate with me, you know, like somebody to kind of help hold your hand. And that's what she did for me. And you know, when I would get in my head about the crystals, and then she would say, let's just see what you need, you know, and let's take a few breaths and put them out in front of you. And then, you know, running your hand over them and still tuning in again. And so that's when I really connected on a deeper level. And then I decided, and that's when I remember hearing specifically when they were saying he had a brain injury. I was like, well, then we need to make new cells in the brain, right? Because they were just talking about when there's a certain amount of cell death, there's no rewiring of the brain. It's not like a traumatic brain injury where the cells like connect around the energy. It's completely dead. So there's no place for the cells to reconnect. So that's when I thought of stem cells. I found a place in Germany, and Kim then empowered me and was like, why didn't you make some bracelets? And then here in town, I live in Las Vegas, the Four Seasons Spa. I knew a few of the massage therapists there, and then they started to carry the bracelets. So I was like, well, I better get a business license. And And then I realized that my passion wasn't just making the jewelry, it was actually working with clients and like giving back in the way that was to me, that helped me. So that is really my story in crystal healing. And I think it was me seeing it firsthand, the difference it made in my life, made my Virgo mind believe it.
Yeah. And the way that you mentioned Virgo, like I can totally relate to that in the sense that I also got all the books and I felt so, because even some books will be like, well, this crystal does this, but then another book may say something different.
And then I'm like, how do they know that? I would just sit
Right.
there and afterwards I'd be like, well, how do they know that? And how can it really do all of those things? It just seems like a lot. And I would just, I would go down a whole rabbit hole of like, I used to really know. And that's when I realized, oh, it's about your intention with them and just connecting with them. And I thought to make it easier, just picking with the chakra that it's connected to, right?
Yeah, starting off with that. And I like my little sister, she's getting into crystals now.
Mm-hmm.
And she got a couple from my collection actually. And I like just picking out the ones that speak to you, kind of like what you mentioned right now, and then later look at the book, right? Because I still like to like nudge at the book and see if I was in the right direction. But it's amazing, like the 5 that she picked out, I sent her the definition for them and they all kind of tied in, where she was like, they kind of all do the same thing, don't they? And I'm like, no, from my collection of like almost 100, you pick the 5 that do similar things.
You need the most. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, and it's like, it's almost like a little reading, you know, it's almost like a little oracle or tarot card reading when you pick your crystals and then you go back and read about them. Because what I ultimately came to find out from all my questioning of how do they know that? How do they know that? Well, I realized it was from them working with them. It was from meditating. And then collectively, anything that we give a lot of energy to, more than one, 3 or more come together and give energy to it, it's going to be more powerful. That's why, in my opinion, mantra is so powerful. So if collectively we all agree that blue lace agate helps to calm our voice and helps us to speak more clearly, then over time it just is.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to be so complicated, you know? I don't think it has to be near as complicated as, you don't really necessarily need a course. You don't necessarily need to do all of these things. It's more what you need to do is take the time to tune in.
Right. And then get guidance if you really don't know where to start. So as you've shared about your journey, how would you compare previous Laura that didn't know about crystals to today?
Well, I feel like I have an extra powerful tool. So before, it's almost like it's given me the pause, you know, how they say, you know, pause before you react, don't have a knee-jerk reaction. I feel like now when anything comes up in life, the crystals are the pause. Oh, what crystal do I need? Stop and breathe, meditate. I wear them so it's like a reminder. I can sit anywhere and almost even use it as a mala, you know, and say my mantra. So I would say it's given me a tool, a pause, and just calmer energy. You know, it's more empowering. It's like not feeling so defeated when life throws things at you.
Yeah, and it's adding something to your holistic toolkit. Like I like calling it. I have all these things in my toolkit. I actually have your bracelet here.
Oh, I forgot you had that.
I have that in my toolkit as well. Thank you for that.
Nice. You're welcome.
So one of the other questions that I like to ask is, what advice would you give a previous version of yourself?
To utilize the tools. There's so many times that for me, when I deal, because I have anxiety issues, and I don't even want to say issues, but I've dealt with high functioning anxiety. So I will sometimes just shut down when I feel anxious rather than using my tools, like taking a bath with rose quartz or sitting for a 5-minute meditation or doing a nice yoga flow, anything to help calm the parasympathetic nervous system down. I'll almost do the opposite and sit and do screen time or overthink rather than write my thoughts down. So it's just doing the work and doing it in little chunks instead of getting overwhelmed in my brain and saying, I could do this, this, and this, and this, and then get even more shut down. I would say just find one thing and then set your timer for 5 minutes, because normally it'll feel so good that you'll just keep going. And I wish my previous self would have done that.
That's an excellent advice, because I'm the same way. Even though like if you saw my apartment, I have crystals and oils and all the things you could imagine. In that moment, we just kind of get tunnel vision. And that's why in the community, I feel like the main focus is to consistently remind us of the tools that we have. And what I hope I'm doing with these monthly focuses on different holistic topics.
Yes. I mean, it's like for my kids, I'll make sure that they've had a smoothie, they've eaten right. I may skip breakfast. I'll make sure they get their essential oils. Will gets his frankincense, his On Guard every single morning. And then, you know what I mean? So, but why don't I do that for myself? So I guess that would be my biggest thing, is just do it for yourself.
Fill your cup first. That's something we were talking about a few weeks ago. The overflow is for everybody else, but we need to maintain that cup full. Right. And by doing these practices, using the crystals and the oils, we can really tend to ourselves so that we can better serve other people as well, and your kids and your family and clients. So,
which is why your group is so powerful, because I feel like the people that have joined your group, they're kind of, it's like a focus statement, I am doing this for myself, and it's showing how they're filling their cup first.
Yeah, exactly. And I would love to hear your podcast. How can people find your podcast?
It's on my link tree on Instagram. And then when we post a new one, I always share it on my Instagram. So probably there, my Facebook group. I mean, I post it pretty much everywhere, just not on any of my private pages.
Okay, so I will link your Instagram, and like all the links that I can find, I will link it to this post as well.
Okay, yeah. It's okay till it's not. Yeah, it's okay till it's not is what we're talking about. All different topics about how things are okay until it's not. And then what do you do when they're not?
Is that the name of that one podcast, or the podcast?
That's all of them.
Okay, I love the name. So catchy. And like for the advice, I just want to bring up again something that you mentioned, that we can count on ourselves to tune into what these crystals are doing, the properties, the benefits of them, versus just depending on the books. This is something that I gathered too from our conversation that might help other people.
And close your eyes, so you start to get a little collection, or you're going to the shop to start to look at a little collection, which I would recommend over online, just because you can get a feel, you can touch them, you can see them. But close your eyes and use your left hand. That connects to the intuitive part of your brain.
And then just whatever
and just kind of swipe over them, and see where you feel a pull, and then look down and see what crystal you're most attracted to. And like you did for your sister, then go to the book, or Google online, or look on my page, and see what that crystal means, what chakra it's connected to, and see where you're at in your life, which you already know. So, and if it connects.
Exactly. And I saw on your website, you have all these crystal definitions, which is wow.com, right?
Yes. So Will, as I was sharing earlier, definitely inspired the business, and Will's initials happen to be WOW. So there's no accidents, just serendipities. And so William I did it like the will to wow. Although a client the other day said to me, she wrote back, she posted a bracelet I made for her, and underneath it, she did a hashtag willpower. And I was like, wow, I don't know why I never thought of that before. That's so catchy.
That is, I like that. You should start adding that hashtag to your things.
I started adding that, and I was like, wow, I don't know why I didn't think about that 10 years ago, but anyway, yeah. So it's will to wow, like having the will to wow yourself and everybody around you as you heal.
That's a great name for your business, and ties into your mission and everything that you're doing. And thank you for everything you share, and for the work, the content that you're providing, and everything is so needed, especially nowadays in this time that we're living in now.
Oh, thanks, Melly. I feel the same about you too, for sure.
Thank you.
For sure. You're so authentic. And I think there's so many people coming online and that it's so hard to, you know, when you're new, it's so hard for me, especially. I remember being really overwhelmed, like who's real, who's not, who's trying to sell, who's not, because, you know, everybody wants a crystal now, or guidance, dream work, all kinds of things, right? We're all needing a little extra support, but who's genuine and who's not. And that's why I think we connected initially, was because I felt how genuine you were.
And I felt the same with you. Like, yeah. I think,
yep, for sure.
And it was so beautiful to start working collaboratively. Is that the word?
Yes.
Collaborate together with the group we had a few years ago, but that we can reconnect now. Because back then, I mean, I was just started, like you know, you've been doing this a lot longer with your crystal business. I started maybe like 5 to 4 years ago, but really how all of our different modalities came together. You know, I use crystals for dream work. That's something that I cover in my course. There's crystals to help you sleep, like you've mentioned, but also one that I was talking to in the community about, like a crystal to help you bring forward the dream you want to have. So similar.
What crystal did you recommend?
It's a Chinese stone. Chinese writing stone?
No, I've never. I can't wait to see that. No.
Yeah, there's a picture. So something I just posted on Tuesday is I have a crystal library. It's just pictures of my crystals. And it doesn't even have any definitions. I'm actually going to link your website for that. But what I wanted to do is in the comments, everybody share their experiences, right? So it's not kind of just clouded by how I worked with it.
I love working with crystals for dream work. I love dream work in general. I've always been fascinated by it.
Thank you so much for chatting with me, with us, for those who watch it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye, Melly.